So in this video, we're going to be talking about OREI or OREI. I never remember how to say that, but we're talking about the 8K 30Hz HDBaseT Extender up to 300 feet. As I said, this is a HDMI extender, and you can extend this up to 300 feet. So this has a transmitter and a receiver. So what is an HDBaseT? So basically this lets you send an HDMI signal over HDMI, but over really long lengths. I've done this before on the channel. I believe the other one was 4K. However, this one is 8K. Now I understand there's not a whole lot of 8K content. There's basically no 8K consumer content. There's no 4K, 8K Blu-ray. There's no 8K streaming, and there's really only a couple of TVs that even support 8K. But it's good that you have the bandwidth. So what would you use something like this for? Well, let's say that you have a home theater, or if you don't have a home theater, you have maybe a device that's in another location of the house, and maybe you don't have the space for it. Maybe you want to stay uncluttered, or like I said, maybe you have all your devices in another room, in another rack, and maybe you're using like a TV or a projector. But what you can do is, let's say you have an Apple TV or a Zadoo in a different part of the house, and because you can control those over the network, for instance, with the Zadoo, those can be controlled over the network with an app. So maybe you're in your bedroom or a spare bedroom and you want to watch content in there, but you don't want to have all this clutter, you don't want to have all these devices in there, you just want a clean look. You can have a Zadoo in another room, and because you can control it over the network, which I'll show you here in a little bit, you can pull up the app, you can control what you want to play, you hit play, and then you'll have the transmitter that will be plugged into the Zadoo. You'll have the HDMI going from the Zadoo into the transmitter, and then you'll take a really long Ethernet cable, depending on how long you need. You'll run that maybe up through the attic and then over to your spare bedroom or your bedroom, and then the receiver will be plugged into the HDMI from the TV, HDMI to the receiver, and then the other end of the Ethernet will be plugged into the receiver. So I'm not going to do all that. I'm not going to go through the attic because I don't need to do that. However, for this video, I'm going to use a 100-inch Ethernet cable. So I'm going to plug the transmitter into my Zadoo in my theater, and then I'm going to run this cable just underneath the door right up to my living room. That's probably, I don't know, probably about 20-30 feet, and then I'm going to plug or hook up the receiver to the TV with this. So let's see what we get in the box. So you have your receiver, then you have your transmitter, you have your user manual, and then you have one power cable. So you're probably wondering, where's the other cable? I'm assuming this supports power over Ethernet. So I'm going to assume that the power is probably going to be connected to the transmitter. Let's see here, the transmitter. Yep, so it's got the DC 24 volt on here. And then there's probably not one on the, well, there's one on here as well. So I'm guessing you can probably plug this into one or the other, and then it'll provide power over Ethernet to the other end. So whichever is more convenient, if you want to plug this into the transmitter or the receiver, it should work fine. And then we also, looks like we also have some infrared blasters and an infrared, yeah, so you got some infrared blasters. I'm not going to need those. So let's look at the connections. Oh, and you also get some mounting brackets for the receiver and the transmitter. Again, this isn't going to be a permanent install, but I just want to show you guys how it works. Okay, so on the receiver, we have our DC 24 volt. We have an HDBaseT in, so your Ethernet will go there. You've got left and right audio out. I'm not going to use those. You've got your HDMI out, and then you have your infrared in, infrared out, and then you have RS-232. And then on the transmitter, it should look exactly the same. So you have your DC 24 volt HDBaseT out, your Ethernet, your left and right audio out, your HDMI in, infrared out, and then your RS-232. So I'm going to get everything hooked up, and then I'm going to go into the living room and show you guys if it works. Okay, so I've got the transmitter connected to my Xidu Ultra HD 8000, and then I have the receiver connected directly to my TV. And as I thought, both of these support power over Ethernet. So I plugged in the power cord to the receiver just because that was easier. I had easier to find a plug in the living room. And then the transmitter is being powered over Ethernet. So the receiver is connected to my TV on HDMI 3. Let's switch over to HDMI 3. And what do you know? It's showing up as Ultra HD 8000. So that's how it would be if I was directly plugged into the TV. And it shows up. So we'll click that. And you'll see that it is getting 3820 by 2160 at 60 Hertz. Okay. So this is my Xidu. And just to show you that I can control it, that I'm controlling it through the network, I'll hit home, and then you can see I can swipe to the right, swipe to the left. So we'll hit the, go back home, go to the poster wall, and these are all my movies, so I can swipe down. Okay, so let's pick a movie, and we'll go with The Creator. And then you can see it's 2160, Blu-ray, HDR10, H.265, Dolby True HD. So I'm gonna hit Blu-ray. And you can see that it functions normally. So it's asking me if I want to continue. I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to hit mute so I don't get a copyright strike. And you can see it is playing fine. So we're going to scrub through here. I can skip forward and it's playing, no issues. Okay, we'll fast forward some more. Okay, we'll hit pause. And you can see the video resolution is 3840 by 2160 at 23.976. You can see the real-time bit rate. And we'll scrub through here a little bit more. And you can see it is playing absolutely fine without any issues. So I'm going to hit pause. We're going to go back so that we don't get a copyright strike. Okay, so now that we know that that works, I want to try a movie that is high bitrate. Now, obviously, I don't have any 8K content. Again, there is no 8K content, but I do want to look for Gemini because Gemini supports 4K 60 high bitrate. So we will go to Gemini Man, sorry. So Gemini Man, and I'm going to click on Blu-ray. Okay. So you'll notice that this one is 3840 by 2160 at 23.976. However, this is a 60 frames per second. So let's go back. Okay, so if we hit pause, we hit play. Okay, so I've selected a different file, and as you can see, we are looking at 3840 by 2160 at 60 frames per second, bitrate 99.2 megabits per second, real-time bitrate 84. Okay. So we're going to skip forward here a little bit. And look at that buttery smooth. So we will go back to the remote. And you can see 60 frames per second. And it's not having any issues playing. Okay, so you know the audio is working fine. And yeah, it's playing buttery smooth. There is zero issues. So again, this is 4K at 60 frames per second. And you can see the bitrate, real-time bitrate. You can see the file size. It's in English Dolby True HD with Dolby Atmos. So it is sending the Dolby Atmos over. And then, yep, HDR10, 8-bit, 60 frames per second. Now, I don't know if this supports Dolby Vision. That I don't know. I would assume it should send the signal over to your TV, and as long as your TV supports Dolby Vision or your display, then that should work as well. But it is working buttery smooth. There is zero lag. So, you know, that 8K 30, even though we're not playing 8K, you've got so much bandwidth, you should have zero issues with 4K 120. And again, I'm watching this right now, looking at it, and it's just buttery smooth. The colors are accurate, no issues. You heard the audio's playing fine. So let's switch over to the Apple TV and see how that works. Okay, so right now I am on the Apple TV, and it's asking me if I want to switch to Dolby Vision. So this does support Dolby Vision. So we're going to try Dolby Vision. Okay, so you can see that it worked. So we're going to hit OK. And well, it looks like we're cooking. So let's find some Dolby Vision content. Go to Disney Plus. So let's play Fantastic Four. Okay, you can see that it's playing fine. We'll skip to different scene here. And you can see it's playing just fine. And you can see if we check on the TV, we're getting 3820 by 2160 at 60 hertz, which is weird because this movie is not 60 hertz, it's supposed to be 23. So not sure why that signal is 60 hertz, but you can see we're getting Dolby Vision at Rec 2020, 16 by 9, UV 422-bit, PCM 8-bit. So again, not sure why it's showing 60 hertz. Oh, I know why. It's because I didn't change the settings when I changed it over to Dolby Vision. I need to change it to match the frame rate. So that's why it's showing in 60 hertz, but I can change that easily in the Apple TV settings. But yeah, this works fine, buttery smooth, no issues at all. You know, 8K 60 or 8K 30, even though there is no 8K content, again, the bandwidth is everything. So if you're watching something that's 4K 60, probably if you're gaming at 4K 120, you should have zero issues with lag or anything like that. Again, I tested it on the UltraHD the Zadu UltraHD 8000, and then you get your, 4K 60 content plays. And then right now we're watching Dolby Vision at 4K 60. So this thing rocks. I don't personally have an application for this right now, but I am definitely gonna use this in the future if I ever need to transfer HDMI over Ethernet, over long distances. I forget what the actual distance is with regular HDMI. I want to say anything over 50 feet, you're going to start to get degradation. You're going to start to get some issues with your video signal. I'm not sure on that. I want to say it's 50 feet. Obviously, you can go to something like, an HDMI optical, which, you can do like over 100 feet. I have a 100-foot cable that I use for testing sometimes when I'm doing my reviews. But again, if you need something that's up to 300 feet, this thing plays it fine. The HDMI or the Ethernet cable that I'm using right now is a 100 foot, and that's going from my TV to my home theater, which is probably about 25 feet, 30 feet. So zero issues, zero lag. Again, I'll unmute this so that you can hear it.
I must say, that was all a bit grand.
Hurry with the herbs. How's that sauce look? Don't do that. Wash your hands first. Wash your hands. We'll try that. Okay. Okay. Is this guy good? That is fantastic.
Oh,
It's incredible. Stop. Don't do that. Do that. It's not quite done.
no, it's not quite done.
No.
So no lag with the audio issues, no lip sync issues. Again, I didn't change anything. I didn't change any settings. All I did was hook up the transmitter and the receiver to the device, which is the Apple TV and the Zadu UltraHD 8000. And then the receiver is hooked up to my TV. So I'll leave links in the description. It is Black Friday week. I'm not sure if they have any deals on these, but if you want to pick one of these up, I will leave links in the description. And yeah, highly recommended. All right, so that is the OREI 8K HDBaseT HDMI extender up to 300 feet. I'll leave links in the description if you guys want to purchase this. And let me know if you guys have ever used these products or if you've ever used an HDMI extender. What do you guys think? How do they work? And it's nice to know that even though there's no 8K, you have the bandwidth to transfer whatever you want over HDMI. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.